good. And so I'm gonna ask my friends some questions in a few moments. But first, I wanted to just frame this conversation. And we've been following Jesus post his resurrection, who he encounters after he's risen from the dead. And we've heard about the road to Emmaus and how he met some disciples on the road to Emmaus. And we've also heard from Sherry the other week about how he met the disciples behind a closed door. And this morning, we're picking it up in a garden, and we're actually looking at the very first person Jesus encountered after he rose from the dead. And it's found in John, and you're welcome to come with me. And it's John chapter 20, verse 11. It says, Mary was standing outside the tomb crying, and as she wept, she stooped and looked in. She saw two white-robed angels, one sitting at the head and the other at the foot of the place where the body of Jesus had been lying. Dear woman, why are you crying? The angels asked her. Because they've taken away my Lord, she replied, and I don't know where they've put him. She turned to leave and saw someone standing there. It was Jesus, but she didn't recognize him. Dear woman, why are you crying? Jesus asked her. Who are you looking for? She thought he was the gardener. Sir, she said, if you have taken him away, tell me where you have put him. I will go and get him. Mary, Jesus said. And she turned to him and cried out, Rabboni, which is in Hebrew, teacher. Don't cling to me, Jesus said. I love that because it shows this picture of her throwing herself on him, like, Jesus, teacher. For I haven't yet ascended to the Father, but go find my brothers and tell them I am ascending to my Father and your Father, to my God and your God. So Mary Magdalene found the disciples and told them, I have seen the Lord. Then she gave them his message. So it's early on the day Jesus rose from the dead, and the light's just starting to creep into the garden, and the dews glistening on the leaves, and Mary is already at the tomb. And she's there not expecting to meet resurrection, but she's there with burial spices. She's there expecting to find a corpse. We find Mary there in a garden, and she's in her grief. She's in her despair. And she encounters Jesus, but she doesn't recognize Jesus. Jesus is right there, but she mistakes him as a gardener. And I actually think it's very lovely that she mistakes him as a gardener, because it takes me right back to the creation story, where God creates Adam and Eve, and he gives them a home that is a garden. And he meets them in the garden. He encounters them. He walks with them in the garden. And here we find Mary in a garden meeting Jesus. And I resonate with Mary. I resonate with seasons in my life where I've found myself in a place of despair, in a place of discouragement or disappointment or grief or loss, doubt, just discouragement. I have found myself in those places where it feels like I haven't been able to see Jesus, haven't been able to see clearly God working in a specific situation. But what I love is that Mary encounters Jesus, and it's not until Jesus says her name, Jesus says Mary, and then she recognizes that it's her risen Lord. She recognizes that it's a resurrected Savior. She throws herself on him. And what I love about that is it just speaks so beautifully to the heart of God, that he knows us each by name. He says our name. He knows our name. He knows our circumstances, and he calls us each by name in our uniqueness. And this morning on Mother's Day, he knows each and every mother in this house by name. He knows the name of every child in this house that we represent. Maybe your kids aren't in the house this morning. Maybe they're overseas. Maybe they're living far from God. He knows the name of your children. He knows the name of your young people. He knows your name, whether you're a mother in the house or whether you're not. He knows us and he knows our names. And what I love about the conversation we're having here is that each of my friends here have an amazing, unique story and have amazing, unique children and circumstances that they've found themselves in. But through it all, we've encountered Jesus. And our prayer is that through the course of our conversation this morning, that you'll be encouraged, that you'll be ministered to, and most importantly, that you would just sit here and see Jesus' love for you. Amen? So cool. Okay, so what I thought we would do first is I just thought I'd introduce these lovelies in case you don't already know them. So, and I'm going to let them introduce their a little bit about their families. But first here on my right, we have Ange. And Ange is an amazing mum, but Ange wanted to be a teacher since she was 5 years old, which is pretty amazing. And she's a teacher now. And fun fact, I actually first met Ange when I was in youth group. We were both in youth group together across in Tauranga AOG. And you're probably 4 or 5 years older than me, but a little bit more. But at the time, it felt like you were like a lot older than me because you were like this cool mid-20s and I was like a young teenager. And so I've known you for many years, and so it's so lovely reconnecting with you. And here in the middle, we have Julie Edwards. Everyone say hi, Julie. And she would much prefer to be behind the scenes, but we've dragged her up here this morning because she's got a wealth of wisdom to share, and as well as parenting and mothering her own family. There was a season in their lives where Mike, I just said Mark, I'm like, no, it's not Mark, it's Mike. Mike and Julie, over a 5-year period, fostered 37 children. That's like no joke, that is amazing. And from there, it led to you founding a non-for-profit called Hapai Whānau. Did I pronounce that correct? Hapai Whānau, which has led to also which is journeying alongside pregnant mums and then leading beautiful groups on mamas and peppies and mamas and toddlers and playgroups. And it's pretty outstanding how you have mothered far beyond your own biological children, which is amazing. And then on the end here, we have the lovely Necia, and so glad you could be with us this morning. And some fun facts about Necia, as well as being an amazing mum and grandma, and I'll let you talk about your children shortly. Necia is a strength coach and has been doing that since about 2010. And what I love about strengths is it's just really zoning in on the strengths and the uniqueness of each person. And so, and you also wanted to be a teacher, but you applied to be a teacher when you were too young. And they said, no, you're too young. And so you thought, I know, I'll homeschool all of my children. And so you have been teaching your whole life also, which I love that and I honour that in you. And so we're going to get underway, okay? Sound good? Okay. The first question I have is a little bit more of an introductory question. Where are my questions? Here we go. I was talking about how Jesus knows us each by name and in our own uniqueness. I thought we'd start with you, Ange, and just sort of go along. And if you could each tell us a little bit about your kids or your grandkids, their uniqueness, and if you'd like to, how you parent them in their uniqueness. Or if you don't want to answer that, you can leave that to Necia.
Kia ora, good morning. I'm Ange. As Sarah said, I'm married to Tony, and together we have 3 gorgeous kids. So my eldest is Charlotte, she's 18, and we have a daughter called Brooke, who's 16, and a son called Caleb, who's 12. I love them to bits, love mothering them, love being their mum. They all have different personalities, temperaments, they're all at different life stages, they all have different dreams, passions, struggles in life. And I think as a mum and as a parent, you know your child arguably better than anyone else and you respond to that. I think another thought around uniqueness is that as mums and as parents, we're all unique too. So we parent out of who we are and not just what we do. I think it's easy to sort of mix the two up at times. If you're like me, you can get a bit task-orientated and you're thinking about, the next meal or the taxi run here and there or the sports coaching or cleaning or whatever it is that you do in your household to make it run. But the real gold in parenting is the loving, the nurturing, the teaching them the ways of God, the helping them navigate their way through life, creating beautiful memories, a stable home. It's all of those things that are less tangible than the others, and that comes through our unique way of parenting.
I love that.
Morena, I'm Julie, and Mike and I have 6 children. Our 3 eldest are married, and then we've still got 3 at home, and we've got 5 grandchildren so far, so it's fun and crazy, but mostly fun. It would be really easy if you could parent each of your children the same, but it's just not that easy. And probably the hardest but the most rewarding job is being a parent. I found with parenting that kids bring both joy and heartache, laughter and tears. They bring out the best in me and definitely the worst in me. It can be a roller coaster ride. Life's like that, but God is forever faithful in all of it.
Morena, everybody. I'm Necia. Murray and I have 7 kids. We had 5 girls first and then 2 boys. They are 34 to 25 now, so all grown, no more babies, which is kind of sad. I think I would have kept going, but Murray told me I was being greedy. Our kids are all married now, and last year our baby had his first baby. So we now have 18 grandchildren, with number 19 and 20 due in June and September this year, which is very exciting. One of them's going to be living with us when she has her baby, so I get to do night shift again, and I'm so excited. The uniqueness of our kids, oh my gosh. I think for us finding the Strengths Finder language when our youngest was 10 has given us such a beautiful language to be able to have really difficult conversations with our kids about all sorts of things. I'm just thinking particularly about 2 of our kids. There's I'll just be really quick, sorry. There's a children's version of the Strengths Finder tool. It's called Strengths Explorer. And so when we first encountered Strengths Finder, we got our younger 4 to do the children's version. And one of our children came up with achiever, organiser and competitor. And you can imagine what that was like. And the other child came up with relator, caring and presence. And it would have been so easy without the Strengths Finder language to constantly compare the child who had relator, caring and presence in a negative way to the one who was always organised and always doing the best and always had a tidy room and always was winning. But to see the beauty in the relator, caring and presence, and to actually be able to appreciate that for their sake was actually really beautiful, and I don't think we would have done that so well if we didn't have that language. I mean, alongside the strengths language, there's your love languages and your learning styles, and we had some because we homeschooled, we had some children was very, very easy learning to read, for example, and some who had dyslexia, which was very, very difficult. But learning alongside all the learning styles and stuff, having the ability to parent to the same standard and to teach them all the same good character qualities, but in different ways for each of their uniqueness. And my husband and I are not the same. We are very, very different, and so we parent different. And our children had different parents. Our older kids had the super young parents who knew absolutely nothing, and our younger children had slightly older parents who still knew absolutely nothing. But learning to do it together and having those conversations along the way and leaning on God constantly, because they are all different. And it's been a beautiful journey.
It's so helpful, isn't it? So wonderful. Yeah, I really like that about parenting with the uniqueness of each child and seeing their strengths. Yeah, I love that. It's really cool. Okay, as mums and as parents, and actually just as a human, there are all times when we go through seasons in life where, like Mary, find ourselves in a garden of, whether it be despair or grief or challenge or discouragement, and we can learn a lot from one another's stories, but in those times sometimes it's hard to see God working in those times. And I just thought it'd be cool if a story comes to mind in your life where you've walked through something that's been really challenging and what that was like, and then where did you see God and how what was that like for you, and if you could share into that.
Some of you will know that I have a daughter who is significantly unwell. So my beautiful girl, Charlotte, who's 18. For the past 5 years or so, she has a very complex health condition which affects her body in multiple ways and has left her living with many impairments. So that means that we're frequent flyers in emergency departments at hospitals. And sometimes she's in hospital for days on end, sometimes weeks on end, and sometimes months on end. I cannot even begin to describe the level of pain and suffering that I have had to watch my daughter endure. As a mum, this just breaks my heart time and time again. But I know Psalm 34:18 says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted." So the Lord is very close to me and to any other mums out there who are also brokenhearted. And at times during those hospital stays, I will see the blessings of God. There's some tricky procedures that she has to go through, and you might strike a doctor that manages at first pop, or she might respond to a pain med and get a reprieve from pain. And I'm always grateful for these blessings that come our way. But the thing is, whether we get a good run through hospital or not, or whether I feel the presence of God with us in the hospital or not, I know that God's got her. I know that He's always there. He promises that He always will be. Never will I leave you, never will I forsake you. Hebrews 13:5. And surely I am with you always. Matthew 28:20. So Jesus knows, He even experienced this Himself. In Isaiah 53:3, it says that He was a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. He encourages us. John 16:33, "In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, I have overcome the world." And it's standing on these truths that activates my faith, that activates my hope, that activates my trust. I know that God's got her. I would love to be able to stand here and say she's healed and healthy and well, and I'm praying for that, and I thank you for those of you who join me in that. But we're still living it out. We're still walking that path. It's still hard, and we walk by grace for every day. As a family, we've had to learn to live day by day, and in those really acute hospital times, it sometimes becomes hour by hour and minute by minute, but His grace is always there for every day.
Actually, I just felt like this morning too, before we started, I always wanted to be a mum. I was just always wanted to be a mum. But before I had my first baby, I had 2 miscarriages, and so it felt like that dream was, may not become a reality. And so anyone here that is suffering that, don't give up on that dream. Yeah, let my glasses back on. But with our sixth child, I'd had really good pregnancies, but with our sixth baby, he was born 9 weeks early. I had a placental abruption. Jack was born in Whangarei Hospital because we were on holiday up north at the time. And I was flown by helicopter from Kaitaia to Whangarei, and Jack was born via an emergency Caesar. I don't recall any of it. I was on a general anaesthetic. Jack was flown down to Waikato later that day, and I was flown down 2 days later. We had amazing friends, Necia and Murray being one of them, that took our 5 other children and had them for a month while we were part of our stay in hospital. But while I was in Waikato Hospital and I was in a lot of pain, I was feeling very overwhelmed, lonely and fearful because Mike couldn't always be there with me. Waikato Hospital is quite a rabbit warren. And there was one day I had to go down and find the midwife's office for a check. And I can just remember sitting in their office and feeling all those things that I was feeling and looking up, and there was a plaque on the wall that had Psalm 139, 13 to 16. I'm just going to read that now. For you created my inmost being. You knit me together in my mother's womb. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Your works are wonderful. I know that full well. My frame was not hidden from you when I was made in the secret place. When I was woven together in the depths of the earth, your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. And I don't know, it just felt like, God's got this. Yeah. We're going to be okay. It's going to be hard, and it was. But there was just so much reassurance in looking up and seeing those words and knowing that we were going to be okay, come what may. Yeah.
Necia? I think probably one of the most difficult times for me would be a situation when and it's always for a mum, it's always when your kids are going through stuff that's hard, because your heart is so invested. And it's probably when my children as adults have gone through something super difficult that I can't fix. And it's knowing that there are other people praying for you. And I vividly remember times when I can physically remember the feeling of being prayed for and not even in the room, knowing that there is a community of mums out there who know your pain and are willing to step in the gap with you and pray for your children. And it has just been so incredibly powerful knowing that there's a village out there surrounding my kids with me.
Yeah. It's powerful. And I do, and I know in my life that, sometimes God, Jesus is standing right there and you just don't recognize him. But sometimes he is disguised as that village, those friends who take your kids when you need them to, or it's that plaque on the wall right when you needed it, or it's that scripture verse that comes alive to you, or a procedure that happens with ease, or, sometimes I think it's just asking the Lord to open our eyes to see him in our village and in the word and in the people around us as well. And so the final question, which kind of gives you room just to share sort of any encouragement and thoughts, is what have been, whether it be some Bible scriptures or a Bible character that inspires you, or some biblical truths. I know you've already shared some, Ange, but what has anchored you as a mum, or even more so, not just a mum, but as a child of God? Like, what sort of encouragement would you want to share with everybody this morning, before we come to a close?
Thanks, Sarah. There's so many, but a couple of verses that I'd love to share. 3 John 1:4, I have no greater joy than to hear that my children are walking in the truth. I feel like that's every Christian mother's dream.
Yeah.
It's never too early, nor is it ever too late to start talking to your kids about God's truths. Another one, Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. I think that verse is a great one for anyone, wherever you're at on that motherhood journey. It's also a great verse to insert your own child's name in and pray and declare that over your child. Just other things that have anchored me as a mum is having other mum chums, other friends to walk the journey with, and not just mums, but friends who can be there with you. And, you don't have to share the same experiences, but we share the same God and we can spur one another on. And I guess finally for me, like, motherhood brings so much joy. I love being a mum. I love family life. Not every minute of it, like when it's whose turn is it to empty the dishwasher and all that kind of thing. But there's so much joy that can come. We had just a really cool night at home the other night. It was a free night where none of the kids had evening activities or after school activities, and we were just sitting around the dinner table, and there was lots of laughter and banter and inside family jokes. And my husband and I just look at each other and we're both thinking this is cool. My kids are probably cringing right now. But it brings so much joy. And, as I've shared, there's a lot of heartache on my motherhood journey, but there's joy in the midst of all that. And, I've really learnt about how joy and grief can coexist. They can be two sides of the same coin. And, motherhood does bring me so much joy, and I love that I've had that blessing from God.
Yeah, it's a real privilege to be a mum. Something I've learned, and we had all our kids home yesterday, and just the crazy chaos, and just hearing their laughter, and then seeing that next generation now. It's a beautiful thing. But I've learnt that in my mothering journey and in life in general, that there is nothing that surprises God. He is always there. Sometimes he shows himself boldly, but mostly it is the whispers and the quiet reassurance. But he never leaves us. He never forsakes us. His mercies are new every morning. His faithfulness is great.
I used to think that the Proverbs 31 woman was amazing, and now she's just terrifying. Yeah. I think for me, somebody in the Bible that I have held on to in terms of my motherhood journey would be Esther. And not because she was an incredible mother, or I don't even know if she had children, but there's one particular comment that was made to her by Mordecai, and it was that she was born for such a time as this. And I think often it's easy to become overwhelmed or fearful about the environment that we're raising our children in. The world's not an easy place to be raising children, to be strong and morally responsible, to make the right choice for right choice's sake. And I think not only were our children born for such a time as this, and for us to trust God that he knows that. He created them and designed them uniquely for this time, but also that he created and designed us as mums uniquely for our children in this unique time as well. and to be able to trust God that He's got us and He's got them, and to just rest in that when things get hard.
Wow. That's amazing. I could listen to you all day. It was amazing. What I might do is let's thank these guys. I might let you guys sit down. And what I love about our community is that, you might see a handful of people up here on the platform from time to time, some of the pastors, but you are sitting amongst like the most amazing people in your row right now. You're sitting amongst people who have walked life, have walked seasons, who have walked the highs, the lows, the joys, the disappointments, and you're sitting amongst people who have found God in it. And so what I love about community is that we have each other, and but I guess encouragement this morning is to get to know the people who are alongside you. Go past that, good morning, welcome to church, and just dig a little deeper and ask some more intentional questions, or tell me about your family, tell me about your kids, or what was a challenging time you walked through, how did you do that? Actually connect relationally with one another and get to know one another, because then we know our village and we can support one another well. So that's a little bit of a pastoral little encouragement there. And what I love so much, Necia is having cuddles with one of the grandkids. What I love so much about these amazing, brave women, and I woke up this morning and I got gifted a mug back in the day at a colour conference, and Pastor Bobby Houston had made these mugs, and it said, "Brave women run in my family." And I was drinking out of this mug this morning, and I was thinking about the three beautiful women who spoke this morning, and I thought, it's true. I have brave women running in my church family. And so I just love being able to hear from them. And I guess this morning, as we bring this portion of our gathering to a close, the garden, my encouragement for you this morning is, hearing the little snippets of truth and the story, what resonated with you, and what's being called to mind in your heart when it comes to, perhaps a challenging season that you're in right now, or perhaps a challenging season that you've walked through. Sometimes when you're in a challenging season, it's hard to see the joy, like Ange was talking about, but there is so much joy in every single day if we would have eyes and a heart to be able to see it. But for you in your life right now, I just want to speak hope and speak life and speak faith into those situations. Jesus knows your name. And Jesus knows the names of your kids. He knows the names of your grandkids. He knows the names of your brothers, your sisters, your mothers, your fathers, and your friends. He knows the name. And what I love about that, and why I take such great comfort in that, is that we aren't numbers, but we're names. And what I love about, each of these stories is you can just hear the connection in that moment of somebody sharing their story. It's like if we were to close our eyes and just picture all the different stories in this room, it's like Jesus, he sees through all of the noise and he sees the individual. And I love that he just, Mary in her grief, she was crying and in despair, and he just cuts through it and he says, "Mary." So my prayer this morning is for you, that you would just allow Jesus saying your name to cut through the despair, the discouragement, that concern you might have for a child or a family member, and that it would just cut through and you would sense his peace and his presence washing over you this morning.